Welcome, everybody. We're so glad you're here with us tonight. And I'm excited because we just called it date night. We have 3 couples with us tonight. So we're excited to see how this is going to work. So our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at the Helping Parents Heal meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. However, these Zoom meetings are very healing to parents all over the world, and they are all posted on YouTube so that affiliate members who are not in our time zone can also watch. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. So thank you all, and Mark, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you for all you do to set these up and make these happen. And we will ask all the attendees to mute themselves, please, so we don't get feedback and such. So you've heard of Shining Light Parents, perhaps. So the concept is that in the beginning, parents who have children who passed on are naturally deeply grieving, sad, lonely, angry, guilty, all what are considered lower energy emotions. And that's not a criticism, a judgment. It's just that those energies have been measured and quantified. However, at some point, they get the idea that they can choose their reaction, that they can honor their kids, create meaning, look for the silver linings, find the blessings, help others in their children's name, etc. Well, doing that then allows them to move more and more into higher energy emotions, peace, joy, love, acceptance, serving others. And so it's been amazing for me to be part of Helping Parents Heal, I think for 9 years now, because some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, and I've met a lot of people, are parents who have become toward the shining light end of the spectrum. Now, that doesn't mean their lives are perfect. They'll still have bad days or moments, but for the most part, their lives are pretty amazing, and they have enough to energy and love and caring to help others along the way. So it's truly an honor to do these interviews. Now, some of you know I've been working in this field for 50 years since I worked in hospitals, and I was around people who died almost every shift, including little kids. And it just drove me to my knees to find out for sure the answers to life's existential questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Is there really a creator? If so, why is there so much suffering, etc.? You know, the questions. And what I've learned is that, excuse me, for the most part, or perhaps all the time, souls who go through great difficulty choose that possibility of something like a child passing. That doesn't mean it's set in stone, you have to do it, but they choose that possibility. And that, if you're a newcomer to this, especially recently bereaved, that may sound like nonsense or horrific. But when you remember that we're all eternal souls, in other words, what we see each other, solid, separate from creator, separate from each other, that's what Einstein called an optical delusion created by our brain, which is a very limited receiver of reality. So in fact, we're all eternal souls. We're energies. We're part of creator right now. and you couldn't lose your kids if you tried. So eternal souls know that, and so they're willing to come here to help them wake up in this earthly experience, serve others, grow, etc. So enough about that. If you want to learn more about that journey from bereaved to shining light, see my article number 82 at soulproof.com. And finally, you can learn more about the affiliate leaders, that is, the group leaders, by going to helpingparentsheal.org/affiliate leaders. And you can learn more about the caring listeners who provide free listening, sharing what helped for them at helpingparentsheal.org/caring listeners. With that, our first couple this evening is Susan and Bill. And thank you for sharing. Tell us, please, about your child, how and when he passed, etc.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark, for that introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Beautiful. Our son, Gregory Van Oy, passed just a little over 9 years ago now. He passed on September the 7th, 2014, from the effects of drug abuse. He did not overdose. I know that's what most people think of when they hear that, the effects of drug abuse. But he passed from something called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which is a very rare disorder that affects those who are chronic or heavy users of marijuana. And again, when this happened, many people were like, you can't die from marijuana, but guess what? You can. As I mentioned, it is rare. But what happens is the effects of that long-term use, and he passed at the age of 27, the effects of that long-term use affects the nervous system and the digestive tract. Long story short, he would vomit for days at a time. He ended up passing in his bedroom in a sober house where he had been living for about 6 months at the time. He told his roommates that lived in other bedrooms that he had food poisoning. He didn't tell them the truth, that he was terribly struggling. We had no idea that this was occurring, and he did not reach out for help, and he passed in his bedroom in a sober house, and that's just a little over 9 years ago now.
He got so sick. He got sick so much that he actually threw off his electrolytes.
Yeah.
And was completely dehydrated, and he just passed sitting beside his bed on the floor.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
what
One of
Go
the
ahead.
many things I love about helping parents heal is that they recognize that no matter how a child passes, accident, illness, suicide, murder, natural causes, they're all just ways back home.
Yeah.
Ticket
Oh,
back
yes.
home.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. So how did you two discover helping parents heal, and what services did you obtain initially?
A couple months after Greg passed, we had been telling a good friend of ours about what was happening to us, and you'll talk more about that later on, Bill in particular. Greg very soon after he passed, within days, was showing up to his dad in our bedroom and speaking to his dad. Bill could hear him. And this was a very big surprise, but a very welcome one, obviously. But so we were telling a good friend of ours about what was happening, and she said, I know two sisters who live here in Calgary who are very interested in this type of, metaphysical stuff that goes on. And she said, I'd like to get you in touch with them. So they became very good friends of ours. We would share with them on a monthly basis what was happening to us. And at one point early on, one of the sisters said, you have to read The Wolf's Message book by Suzanne Giesman. And so through Suzanne Giesman's writings and on her website, I quickly discovered that that there was something called Helping Parents Heal that dealt specifically with the belief that our children are still here with us, and that we can, and many can, communicate with them on the other side. And that's one of the very few groups that talks about that, and that was right up our alley. And then, and we know there are no coincidences. We had we were snowbirds, and we lived for half the year in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it turned out that that's the ground zero for Helping Parents Heal. So when we got to our winter home, we started to go to the meetings at the Unity Church in Phoenix, led by our fearless leader, Elizabeth Boisson. And we went to meetings at Carol Santa Anna's home in Cave Creek as well. And so that's how we got introduced to it. In terms of the services we accessed, we went to the meetings, obviously, and we also would watch the HPH videos on YouTube, you know, with the different experts. And so that was what we accessed.
Okay, great. So what motivated you to start helping others, and what do you consider your strengths in doing that?
Sure. We were involved in Helping Parents Heal in Scottsdale, and I often said to Bill, you know, because we're from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, I said, Bill, we should start a chapter in Calgary, because there are not a lot of Canadian chapters. And at that point in time, of course, before the pandemic,
It was all face to face.
it was all in person. That obviously went out the window. But so 3 years ago, we started the Calgary chapter because we had now come home full time. We sold our place in Scottsdale just before the pandemic hit. Greg our son actually told us to go home, and we listened to him. And but Bill was meditating, as he does a lot, to connect with our son. And Greg came to him a little over 3 years ago, and he said to his dad, because Bill was asking, how can I help? How can I give back? And Greg told his dad, start the Calgary chapter of Helping Parents Heal.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
so, yeah. Oh, I wanted to mention too that we were also blessed enough, because we were in Scottsdale, to attend the first Helping Parents Heal conference, which was absolutely fantastic. So,
Great. So
yeah.
what have you two learned over the years, 9 years now, about how you can best sense Greg's living presence?
Well, it started really early on. About 3 days in, I could already start to see Greg's aura in the bedroom at night, and I could see his outline. And I also started to see a lot of colors coming from emanating from that figure, purples, greens, and yellows. And those are really distinctive colors that Greg uses. And he would sometimes, when I got up in the middle of the night just to go to the bathroom, I would be so enveloped in those colors and lights that I couldn't even see in front of me. I was just in this cloud of these colors, and I knew he was present at that moment, and I would have to stand there maybe sometimes for 5-10 minutes before it would clear enough so that I could actually see and walk.
Oh my gosh. So
So
let
he
me
started.
interrupt you, Bill. So I'm curious, had you seen energy and auras like that before?
No, I had never.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
No, in fact, all of this started to happen right after Greg's passing.
Mm.
You know, it was like
Something switched on.
yeah. And it was an absolutely amazing experience. I mean, it's completely changed me. I would never have thought ever before of ever doing anything like Helping Parents Heal. You know, it's just not wired that way. And after all of that, I started to realize that there was much more than what was going on. And that was an amazing thing. But Greg started coming to me initially a lot in my dreams. We would travel together. I would play with him, go places. We would visit planets. I would be in space with him, seeing stars. I saw him as a star, and he came and showed me himself as a star. I would be able to touch him in dreams, give him massages. It was just amazing. He would lay his head on my shoulder in my dreams. But then as it progressed, it started to become much more, and I started to do a lot of meditating at that time. And then it started to turn into him and I just communicating together. I could hear him talk to me, and I had learned to turn off that monkey brain so that I wasn't thinking of anything. And I had done that through therapy years and years before, because obviously I needed a lot of help back then.
Mhm.
But with that brain emptied out, I could hear him, and I knew when it wasn't me, and I could sense him, and he would come through to me. And then I started slowly writing everything down, and we've gotten into an automatic writing now, where I can just sit and talk to him on a daily basis, or just write anything down. He'll come to me. He'll let me know different ways when he's around. Sometimes he opens the drawer in our office from the desk that's there, and I know he wants to talk. Other times he'll show me the lights, and then I'll talk to him.
Excellent. So, to your point, and for attendees and those who'll be watching later, they're making a very good example of there are levels of knowing that you are an eternal soul, you're one with the one, it's all love and light. And what Susie has said, it's like a switch got turned on. So, see, when we're not on Earth, when we're in, say, the other side, we know all that because it's very obvious. We don't have this limiting brain. But one of the ways to really deeply know it, every fiber of your being, is to come to a place like Earth and awaken to that great news. Jesus and other great religious teachers, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So those are eternal lessons. And once we really know that, then we take that with us wherever we go. So let me ask you, what are 3 things that you wish other parents knew more deeply that you've learned?
Well, I think you'll start, Bill. Bill, actually, and this is not something we asked to have happen, but guess what? Greg came through to his dad last night and said to him, he woke him up at 5 o'clock this morning and said, Dad, this is the only thing that parents need to hear.
And I will read that to you because it's Greg verbatim, talking to me. I woke up at 5:30 this morning. Like I said, I was laying there for a while. I was trying to get back to sleep, couldn't right away, and all of a sudden I saw all the lights come in the room again, the purples, the yellows, and the greens, and I was just enveloped in it. And I thought, wow, Greg's here. He obviously wants to talk. So, this is what he said to me, and he started talking. And the first 2 sentences he started talking, I said, I got to get up because I keep a pen and a piece of paper beside my bed now so that I can do that. I'm often up in the middle of the night. Greg and I are communicating together, and he said this to me. He says, we know there is a deep loss when you lose a child in the physical. We also know there is a universal law that says that what you think and feel manifests what you create. We also know we are eternal. So it makes sense that after a loss, we move forward to acceptance of the loss, for that cannot be altered. This acceptance leads to a higher vibration and thinking and feelings. This higher vibration aids in us being able to connect and have a relationship with our departed child on the other side until we are again reunited with our child and all our departed loved ones. It's beautiful. We never die. Think of your child as being on vacation in a better place until you meet up again.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, I think he stole the show right here.
Well,
I mean, it's just amazing.
yeah.
I mean, I just go with it, because I still find it sometimes, wow, but it is what it is, and I've been gifted with this, through the grace of God, and we'll get into that a little bit later, I think, but as we progress through the questions, but Yeah, it's been beautiful.
Yeah. And Susan, what else do you wish more
Well,
parents knew more deeply?
one thing that Greg talks to his dad and to me as well through his dad about a lot is the importance, the absolute importance of parents finding happiness and joy again in life. He talks about that so often. And in fact, Bill and I think a little over a month ago now, we made our second Helping Parents Heal YouTube video. It's called From Wow to How, where we just talked about what Greg has been telling us about how to live our best life here on this planet. You know, it's basically a roadmap for living in a 3D world. But Greg says to us, we did not come here, and by that he means come to Earth, to be miserable. In fact, the opposite is true. And he understands. He says, I know losing a child is no small matter, but you have to move through it, accept it, and try to make something positive out of what has happened to you.
Mm.
And that's actually one of the big reasons why Bill and I started the Calgary chapter of Helping Parents Heal, is to try to have something very positive come out of our son's passing. And we know he's absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, and I was not a joyful person while I was down here before, Greg's passing, but I now understand that that is absolutely critical. And when he talks to us all the time, it's because he wants the best for us. He sees the bigger picture, and he wants to guide and help us. And I'm starting to work on joy and happiness.
Good.
And it's a big
Good.
thing.
So our time together is flying, but I would like to hear what is your belief or knowing that there is a timing and a meaning even for something as seemingly horrible as a child's passing?
Well, like I said, I have asked, why me? Why has this happened to me? And my initial response was, it's the grace of God. But Greg's also talked to me about that a lot. And he said, it was your time to wake up, Dad. It was just your time. And I said to Susan early on, and she didn't believe me. I said, Sue, this was part of my soul contract with Greg. And she says, no, I won't believe that. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but I believe that that is the case. And Greg has confirmed that to me in our conversations, that we did have a soul contract, that we had traveled together over many, many, many lifetimes, changing roles. He'd been my father, I'd been his father. This time it was his turn to be my son. And, we learned over that time period to communicate with each other, to be able to exchange the love and light energy between each other. And that's why it comes so easily now for me, because we've been practicing this for many, many, many incarnations,
Right.
and I believe that Greg saved me. Had I have continued on the path that I used to say to Susan, I'm not going to make it this time around, Sue. I'm going to have to do it again because I'm just not able to surrender. Well, when Greg passed, that put me on my knees. And when that put me on my knees, I said to God, help me. And I would never have asked for help. I had a heart attack. I didn't ask for help. I was always self-sufficient and self-willed. But I went down on my knees. And I can tell you, that's when the miracle started to happen. That's when Greg started to come through. And it was life-changing for me. And he saved me and he woke me up. And that was just what was meant to happen this time. It was my choice whether or not I chose to take the high road. But I did, and thank God I did.
Wow, wise words. We have to move on, but thank you so much. I got so much out of that, and I know others will. God bless.
Oh, thank you.
Next, Michelle and Bill, you are up, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. And tell us
let's
about
see.
your Jordan. How and when did she pass?
Thank you, Mark. Jordan is our only child. She was 3 when I met Bill, and we were the 3 Musketeers. We had a wonderful life together, other than Jordan started having health problems when she was early in high school, and it just bizarre health problems. I mean, the doctors couldn't believe it. It was just like, how could this be happening to this beautiful, seemingly healthy little girl? And one of the things that we always said about Jord, when she was a baby, a toddler, and so on, it was like we called her an old soul. And I know that so many of us Shining Light parents say that often about our kids. We said that back in the 90s, but we didn't know what it meant. We didn't understand it until she transitioned in August of 2016. Jordan had a horrid diagnosis of gastroparesis, and it's a condition that paralyzes the stomach and the intestinal tract. And so she would eat, but the food wouldn't stay there. If your stomach doesn't, your muscles don't contract and move the food through, then you vomit. So she had a port installed in her chest, and she was fed a liquid nutrition for 4 years. I left my career. Jordan moved home with us. I think when she was 27, she moved home with us. And I was her primary caregiver. And well, she'd always been my best friend. So this was the way it was going to happen. So anyway, she was, as I've said, she was a deep little girl, always deep. She never asked for any toys. She never asked for anything. When she was growing up, Christmas and birthdays would come around. I'd say, "What can I get you? I want to buy you something. You're my only girl." And she said, "Mom, I just want to be with my family." And I just got so frustrated and couldn't understand it until now. And she taught Bill and I so very much. And so she was struggling. Gastroparesis has no cure, very few treatments. We had done everything. She had the best doctors at Stanford in California. She also suffered with epilepsy and chronic migraines. So she was homebound. And to be a young girl, a young woman, wanting a relationship, wanting to fall in love, wanting the things that she saw her friends having, it took a toll. She was with me all the time. I was with her. We never left each other's side other than a few hours for the last 4 years. So in 2016, she talked to me. She was in the hospital a lot. And so in the hospital one evening at Stanford, she said, "Mom, if I decide that I don't want to do this anymore, will you and Dad stand beside me and take me to Oregon where they have assisted suicide is legal?" And I said, "Jordan, Dad and I will do anything for you. We don't want you to go, but we can't stand to watch you suffer either." And the doctors gave us literally no hope. And so, so at the beginning of 2016, she talked to me and she said, I've received several signs. And it's so amazing that she was talking about signs before we even realized, oh my God, signs are going to be what we're going to hang on to for the rest of our life after she is not with us physically anymore. And so she said, "I've received the sign. This is not my home. And I want to go on hospice." And so sadly enough, Bill took off work for 3 months, and she stayed with us, and we helped her pass. And so that's my Jordan and our Jordan. And she was 32 and the most beautiful, loving, sweet, kinded girl you could ever imagine to meet.
It sounds like it. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that's heartrending, but kudos for helping her do that, because she wasn't living, as you say.
No,
and I call that a good death. I don't even call it assisted suicide. I call it a good death with dignity and a timing. And there is a timing on that. And those who have had a child go through anything like that, you can see my article number 4 at soulproof.com, which discusses some of those topics. So how did you all discover Helping Parents Heal, and how did they initially help you?
Well, as all of you understand, you know, you go through the dark night of the soul. You don't realize that that's what it is, but the grief is overwhelming. And I mean, I was looking everywhere there was no grief group where we lived in California. I couldn't find anything. I was with one group for a while, but it was too depressing. And then I found another lovely group, but they were on their way out. They were closing the doors on Facebook, and they referred all of us parents to HBH. So I found Helping Parents Heal in about, I think, the 10th month after her passing. And I was home alone. Bill was working all the time. And I didn't have a laptop. I didn't have an iPad. I'd been a caregiver for 4 or 5 years. I just had my iPhone. So on my iPhone, I would set it up and I watched every single speaker that HPH offered. I watched them, I took notes, and I have those notes today. I went over them earlier today. They're priceless. And then we were blessed enough to be able to go to the first HPH conference as very broken parents. When we laid eyes, we were in the elevator in Phoenix at the hotel, or in Scottsdale at the hotel. And I remember looking out and seeing Tom Zuba and Suzanne Giesman and Bill and I, and we were completely covered in goosebumps because those were our celebrities. Those were the people that they meant the world to us, their words. So yeah, HPH, just number one.
Beautiful. Thank you. So what motivated you then to become to help others, and what do you consider your strengths in that regard?
I'll do the first half and then Bill can do the rest.
Okay.
Opposites attract. I'm a talker. He's very quiet.
Yeah, I picked that up.
Mark, I get this all the time. We've been married in 4 other lifetimes, so it just is what it is. Anyway, as I said earlier, there were no grief groups where we lived in San Luis Obispo, California. There was nothing for parents. Hospice didn't even offer something for parents. All grief was mixed together. So that didn't work for us. And so after the conference, I had told Bill, I said, I want to start a group. And Jordan had started communicating with me like days after her transition. It was amazing. And so Jordan told me, she said, if you'll get the group together and find a location, I will bring the parents. And I said, okay, it's a deal.
Oh, Mitch, are you sure he doesn't want to go out?
So anyway, that's how we started our group in San Luis, and we were there for a year. We had a lovely group that met in person, and then we had the opportunity to move to Sedona. As you guys know, sometimes you need a change of scenery, and Sedona called our name. Bill got a job like within 5 minutes of us even saying, let's move to Sedona. There was a job opening with what he did.
And just to add to what Michelle said, after we went to the first Helping Parents Heal conference, it was just such a transformative experience. We were, going through a very difficult time. I didn't know
Okay.
if
Okay, brother.
one or both of us was going to make it through Jordan's transition.
Sure.
So when we went to the conference to listen to the knowledge that the mediums shared with us, and also the readings that we had prior to that were just magnificent, wonderful mediums that actually allowed communion with Jordan and and Michelle and I. And just to know that she was okay, because I didn't know where she was. And she was suffering so much before she transitioned. And of course, we were too when she did. But just to hear that she's okay and thriving and better than ever, to hear that through a medium was just incredible. First, they would present some evidence, and then allow us, to communicate with Jordan. So, yeah, the first conference was just terrific, and that allowed Michelle and I. That just allowed us to grow spiritually at a very rapid rate. Our spiritual growth took off like a rocket.
Yep.
And I can't think of any better way for a couple to grow together than what we've experienced.
Yeah, I can feel the strength of what you two have gone through, but tonight you can share with everyone you touch. So what can you share with others, what you've learned about how to sense Jordan's living presence, especially now that she's healthy and whole again?
Well, there's not a day goes by. There has not been a day that we don't talk about her. We talk about her throughout the day. When Bill was working, he just retired about a year and a half ago. But when he was working, he would come home from the hospital where he worked, and he would tell me stories about things that Jordan had shown him or people that she had led to him, and he could maybe help them out. Maybe they'd lost someone. We sense her presence because she's all around us. She moves things in our home. Our living room pillows end up in the kitchen. She has sent me text messages. I got a message just last week from her in the Notes app on my iPhone. And so she's pretty powerful, and she is loving her life.
Beautiful. It sounds like she's a bit of a trickster as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We had one parent last week say, actually, I hate to see her pass, but I'm more in touch with my daughter now than when she was on Earth. So,
Yes.
wow, that's so cool. You have almost every day.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
what are 3 things, and I'd like to hear from each of you, that you wish other parents knew more deeply that you've learned?
Something that's been a very, very, very helpful to me is knowing that Jordan being sick and passing, transitioning, it was just a moment in time. That's all it was. All the guilt that I carried, that I didn't do enough to keep her here, it made no sense. And I understand that now. So our kids transitioning is a moment in time. There is infinite time for us to be with them in the future and now. Go ahead, sweetie.
Yeah, just knowing that our kids are around us all the time. We can always, I talk to Jordan multiple times a day, and her transition, there was a speaker during the second conference, without naming names, that said that our child's transition is the greatest awakening. And the amount of growth that we've experienced and our ongoing relationship with Jordan has just been incredible.
And one more thing from me is when you're deep in grief, the dark night of the soul in the first few years, I had a very hard time reading. My eyes were swollen from crying, and just reading anything was tough. But Bill and I flew, we flew to Kansas City, years ago, I think 2018, to see Suzanne Giesemann speak, to do a retreat with her over the weekend there. And as we were flying, and Bill's an avid reader, and he had, Mark, I think he had your book, and we also had Robert Schwartz, the soul plan.
Mhm.
And I would like in the plane, I'm bored and I would reach over and I would try to read pages and it was like a light bulb went off and I realized, oh my God, we planned this. We planned this all together. And knowing that got me through. I still count on that today. I still read those chapters. And it's a huge deal, is knowing that we planned this. And I know it sounds bizarre to new parents, like it did to us, but I'll tell you, that was the only reason my daughter could have suffered so much. We planned that.
Thank you for that. So strong. And finally, what would you share, please, about your beliefs or knowing that there is a rhyme and a reason, a meaning, a timing, even behind a child's passing?
You wanna go?
Go ahead. Oh man. Go ahead, sweetie.
Yeah, I, like we said before, you know, a child's transition can be the greatest awakening. And it's been amazing just realizing who we really are, awakening to who we really are. Because I didn't have a clue before Jordan transition. And to be aware of spirit always, energy around you. For Jordan, her family and friends, I talk to God constantly. I talk to Jordan constantly. Divine Mother, Holy Spirit, spirit guides, angels, just awaken a whole new world for us.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You know, what you were just talking about, the average human will see life as though through a tiny pinhole because the brain is filtering out so much of reality. But when some spiritually transformative experience, like the passing of a child, occurs, that valve can open up a little more, and then we see more of reality, what is really real. And yeah, it's a completely different experience. And then we can brighten the corner where we are and share with others. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
My pleasure. And as Kathy and Andy come on, I'd just like to share, both sets of couples have mentioned pre-birth planning, soul planning. And for attendees, viewers who want to learn more about this, see my article number 25 at soulproof.com to learn some of the evidence behind it. There's not just wishful thinking or nonsensical view. Thanks again. Okay, Kathy and Andy, you're up.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, and tell us, please, about Aiden and Connor.
Yeah, so you mentioned the average human, and I think someone's mentioned the Great Awakening. I'd say we were following what most people would say is a normal life for a long time. 3 children, dog, life, job. And then in March of 2013, our youngest son, Aiden, who was 15 at the time, transitioned by suicide, which was a shock to us. We never saw it coming. And was a huge awakening to everything that changed. That was Aiden. He was 15, 2013. 8 months later, our oldest son, Connor, who was 20 years old, passed in an accident while he was away at college. He fell off a balcony while he was at school. Shock number 2.
To say the least.
To say the least. And we've been living a different life ever since.
And just to tell you a little bit about Connor and Aiden and who they are. Aiden is the sweetest, kindest, most sensitive young man, always has been, always will be, and continues to be that way. Just talked Michelle, you were making me laugh earlier because you said you're the talker and Bill is the quiet one, and well, that's same here. So I'm the talker and Andy likes to get to the bullet points. But Aiden talked just like me from an early age, and he talked constantly, and it was like you couldn't do anything else while he was talking. He would constantly take your face and make sure you were making eye contact, and he had 100% of your attention. And then when he passed, I realized he knew, his soul knew he wasn't going to be here very long, and he wanted to get it all out. He knew he had a lot to say. And I realized that a little while after some of the fog left. And then Connor, he wasn't much of a talker, you know, a deep conversation, but he didn't have to be the center of attention. He had a couple of really good friends, and that's all he needed. He was a good, solid, steady, very loyal friend. But his big personality trait was his drive. When he had an idea in his mind that he wanted to accomplish, there was just no stopping him. He had to get it done, and he had to get it done right now. And whatever he needed, he made sure he had in place. He was an incredibly intelligent young man. And after he passed, I realized his soul knew that he would not be staying in the physical for very long. And he had an agenda, and he had things he wanted to accomplish. And he really knocked us off our feet so many times with what he could do, and the courage and the amount of stamina he showed.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the hallmarks of a more evolved soul, because when they come here, they know they don't have likely much time on earth, so they want to pack it in and get it done. Well, tell me, please, how did you discover Helping Parents Heal, and how did they help you at first?
I think every one of us can say the kids led us to Helping Parents Heal. When I realized that they were still talking to me, I was not like Bill, Bill Van Ogie, I think I pronounced I didn't hear the kids in their voices. I heard subjectively, I heard them in my voice. It was my thought voice, but they weren't my words. They weren't my thoughts, but I heard it all in my head subjectively. And it took me a long time to kind of catch up to that they were talking to me. I thought it was me. I thought I was having epiphanies or something. So once I realized that it was them talking, I didn't want to miss anything. So I started taking courses in connecting. And of course, who do we go to but Suzanne Giesman? And I had gone to a week-long course that Suzanne was sponsoring, that Mavis Patilla had and her partner Jean were teaching. And while I was there, Suzanne had said to me, we had met Suzanne at another course up at Omega in New York. And so she said to me, oh, come here, I want you to meet my friend, Irene Vouvalidis. And Irene was turned around doing something, and Suzanne said, excuse me, Irene, I want you to meet Kathy. And she turned around, and I am not kidding you, the light that came from Irene's face, she is the epitome of a shining light parent. She greeted me with this huge smile. This light came from her face that I felt like I almost had to step back because I was still sort of in the grief of fog. It was about 3 years or so after the boys had passed. And I looked at her and I thought, I think I used to look like that. I realized I wanted to look like that again. And so Irene told me about Helping Parents Heal, and we started attending meetings shortly after.
Beautiful. And then when were you motivated and how to serve others? And what do you consider to be your strengths with that?
But so we have a little story with that. When we first found Helping Parents Heal, we found the local chapter, but the local chapter is about an hour and a half from our house. So it was quite a drive to go up there. And I think after a while, we recognized that there was some people in our local area. And I think we kind of wanted to give them an opportunity. And I think at that point, we were kind of ready to start something more local to where we were. Of course, since then, COVID hit, everyone went to Zoom, things changed, and all the groups around here in Northern Virginia kind of came together and became one as part of Zoom. And we just became the affiliate leaders of that group.
Mhm.
I'm a professional volunteer. It's been part of my life forever. Andy is a retired Marine, so through his Marine Corps career, I volunteered with, yeah, all of the family readiness. I volunteered in schools, I volunteered in church. It was just like, it's my thing. And I remember learning at one of the courses in one of the training sessions that when people go through a big tragedy or there's trauma, the people who step forward to help deal with the trauma in a different way than those who sit. So I recalled that in the very early days of the boys passing. And I remember thinking, when I'm ready, I have to step forward. I want to step forward because I knew that it would not only provide an outlet for other people, but it would help me as well. It's that whole, when you give, you receive. And I think I received so much more by volunteering than I ever have given.
Great. What can you two share so others can learn how to better sense their child's presence?
Better sense. I mean, we get signs all the time. We license plates, numbers, animals, a little bit of everything that, you know, that I think someone said there are no, everything's done for a reason. And yeah, no coincidences. And we have just had some amazing signs that could be nothing else.
For me, and the way I sense the boys, I've learned a whole lot. I didn't know what I was experiencing in the beginning, but now I have words to put to it. I feel everybody has an easier way to be communicated with. So, and they're called the clairs for anybody who has not taken mediumship courses. Like clairsentience means clear feeling. Immediately after Aiden passed, I felt him start touching my face. And before I knew anything, I would feel this touch on my face, and I knew it was Aiden. It made sense. It was things that he had done that while he was here physically. It all made sense. So for me, I can tend to be an emotional person. Be quiet. So I can feel emotions. I can feel a shift in a room if somebody's in a bad mood. So the boys they know that. They know so much more than I know. So they have come through in a way that they know is my easiest way. So I'd say to parents to kind of know yourself, know where your strengths are. For me, I knew immediately it was clairsentience. You can expand other ways to communicate through, like I believe everybody has mentioned so far, through meditation, through quieting the mind. I am not a great meditator. So for me, I've learned that meditation in the very beginning was running. I was a runner and I would get downloads. I would get information. I would get so much just running. I know one of my mentors, she said that her thing was ironing. Anything you can do that will bring your brain sort of out of that monkey mind. And if you're doing something rote, you're occupying that left side of your brain that wants to organize everything, and you allow that right side of your brain to open up more. So know where you feel the most comfortable. Don't sit down in a quiet room and say, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, if that's not your go-to. You can eventually learn that.
Beautiful. I mean, you two everybody's making great points. So yeah, I love the first one about be open to how your children come in. And it's like forming a new relationship, a different kind of relationship. Then once you make that connection, yeah, go ahead.
Somebody told, one of the very first mediums I went to after Connor transitioned said to me, when you're ready, you'll learn their language. And so I felt like I'm learning a new language. I'm learning a new language, but I have realized along this path, I am not learning a new language. I am remembering my original language because that's where I came from and that's where I'll go back.
Ooh,
And so that
great
really helps me.
Great distinction. Thank you. And then excellent point that not everyone is suited for seated meditation, and there's waking meditation. As you say, it's all about quieting the brain, which we said blocks out so much of what is really real. And so for people to learn more about that, you can see my article number 77 at soulproof.com called Centering Practices. And there's a long list of ways to quiet the brain. You know, as the saying is, be still and know that I am God, and know that you are one with God right now. Well, what are 3 things that you wish more parents knew that you have learned?
Well, some of this has been said, but that you can communicate. I think that's always very important. We do know that there's an afterlife. And I think for us, with our experience, for us, it was kind of like after a while, we knew we weren't going to return to the people that we originally were. You can't return, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not going back to who you were. We're different. We have a different path now, different journey, different communication, and that's just fine. We're on that path and we are exploring it as best we can.
Great. What else?
You have anything else?
No.
I think the one thing I would want to tell any new parent on this journey is you will not always feel the way you feel right now. If somebody could have just convinced me of that, is that this is a changing experience, and to not listen or listen loosely to other people's experience, because sometimes people won't share the most positive things with you and say, you know, well, this is worse than that, and I can't, you know, don't take everything to heart, because everybody's journey is so incredibly unique, because everybody's love is so incredibly unique. So just know, when you're feeling that dark night of that soul, when you're wandering that path in the wilderness, you will not always feel that way, that you are being guided and led to your group, to your tribe, and trust your kids to get you there, because it just, like everybody has said, there's been so much awakening on this journey. It's just shocking to me, and it's exciting to me, and I look forward to learning more.
Beautiful.
The other thing I would really, really like parents to know, and it took me a little while to understand this, but it's that I am an and person, and I think I've become an and person through this journey. And I realized that grief and joy can occupy the exact same space at the exact same time, and that is okay also. And just to know that, I mean, we're 10 years on this journey now. In March, we passed the 10-year mark with Aiden transitioning, and in 2 weeks, it'll be the 10-year mark of Connor transitioning. And, you know, I'm a mom. I miss their physical presence all the time. And I celebrate, and I am excited about the continued relationship that we are building and that we are growing together, and the work we're doing together.
Great points. And finally, what would you like to share, please, about your beliefs or knowing that even amidst something that seems as horrible as this, God is not asleep at the wheel, that there is a timing and meaning to it?
Yeah, I would tell you early on that would be a tough one.
Sure.
I don't think we would have reacted well to that. We do believe in, you know, the soul path, and that we've agreed to some of this a long time ago, but it took us quite a while to get there. Yep. And to actually recognize that.
I'm a stubborn Irish girl, so when the idea of soul planning was first introduced to me, I grew up Catholic. I'm still very Catholic, but I am Catholic plus, maybe I can call it. I don't know. The metaphysical Catholic. I always believed God knows when we're coming home. That's it. You know, it's all up to God. And as I've learned, experienced, and grown more, I now totally embrace the soul plan. I realize that he's far too busy, first off, to be mitigating all of that, that we have an active role in our lives. We have an active role in the planning of our lives. And that made, again, like Michelle had said, that settled in my soul. Once I embraced that, then it made things make sense, because up until that point, none of it made sense. And the question of why just bounced in my head, and that never brought me somewhere good. But once I embraced the soul planning and realized there is a bit of control I have over all of this, and that control is in my choices and the choice that I made to come here and live this life. The other thing that it helped me with was to also realize that I always felt like, I'm the parent, I know everything, I should have controlled everything, I should have been able to make their lives perfect. Soul planning has also helped me to embrace the fact that my children are each their own spirit. They each came here with their own plan, and that we came here to do that together. And I have learned along the way that they are my greatest teachers. I was not really their greatest teacher. They have been mine, and they continue to be. And all of that I've been able to embrace through soul planning, and realizing that they needed to go when they left, because that was their plan. But the plan continues. It didn't just stop with their transition and now they're done. They're working there while we're working here, and we're building together. And that soul planning has been such an incredible gift for me to understand and realize.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful job. And to all of you, 2 quick points about that. To your point about actually, as we see more of the greater reality, the magnificence of the cosmos, we can realize that it is all up to God, and we do have a choice and a role in that, because God is not a big guy in the sky, as many near-death experiences come back and say. We each are one with the one and part of Source. So it helps you understand more about the nature of Creator and our inseparability from it. Well, as I'm sure everyone who watches this, I feel so full right now. I'm vibrating, my chest, my heart just feels like it's about this big. So thanks so much to each one of you. Lynn has shared email addresses, way to contact these 6 amazing leaders, and just know that we are here for you. There's a whole team, affiliate leaders, caring listeners, online classes. So parents, you don't have to go through this alone. As one of the leaders said, if you've lost all hope, we'll give you some of ours till you get some of yours back. And I just love that so much. So know that we're here. You will get through this. Watch and re-watch what these wonderful parents have shared, and let us know how we can help. Good night, everyone. God bless.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks so
to meet
much.
everyone.
Yes.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming, everyone.
Awesome. You all are
Bye.
awesome.
Great night.
Thank you, Mark and Lynn, for doing
Thank
this.
you, guys.
Thank you guys for coming on. Love you guys.
Thanks to your kids.
Thanks, Lynn.
What a team.
Yeah. I think we should leave.